Hey everybody, welcome to AgileDad University. It's part of our vlog series, and this is absolutely awesome. I am here with my dear friend, Sana Abou-Shaaban. Now, she was one of my students in a previous class, but let me tell you, it's not common for me to bring a student on. It's not common for me to bring someone on who's just someone in my class, but she did a fantastic job in class. So admittedly, I did a little bit of LinkedIn stalking. So let me give you what I got. So she's project manager at the federal government of Canada. So she's coming to us from the Great North. She's part of Women in IT and Leadership. She's a speaker there, co-creator of Women in IT at CBSA. She's part of IEEE Canada, the PEO director, Women in IT Canada Award, shortlisted advocate of the year for 2019. Holy cow. I don't know that I've ever had someone who came through my class with so many shining credentials, right? So that's awesome. So welcome, Santa. How are you today?
Thank you so much, Lee. I mean, I could ask for a better way to be introduced into this. Thank you so much. Doing pretty good, and kudos for pronouncing my name perfectly fine. Thank you so much.
No, no worries. It's always a challenge. I have to admit, I did practice in front of a mirror 100 times to make sure I could get it right. But no, it's one of those things where it's always a pleasure. I'm a big fan. I'm an advocate for inclusiveness and diversity and things like that. So this kind of fits the bill. So I guess I want to know. I want to start it off with something interesting because we always start off that way. So I want to know. Tell me one thing that's not work related, that's not agile related, that's not women in IT related, that makes you who you are. What makes you Santa? So if someone asked you, what separates you from everybody else? What makes you Santa? What drives you? What motivates you? What would you say? What's something that's separate from work?
Separate from work,
Mhm.
always following my passion.
I love that. I
Always following
love
my
that.
passion.
And I'm going to kick this off with a quote. So I was reading. So I do a lot of reading, and someone compared me to I call this, if you tune into my podcast, I did a whole podcast on something called the greatest compliment I've ever received.
Mhm.
And someone compared me to a gentleman named Randy Pouch. And he was a Disney Imagineer. And he had lots and lots of cool things that he was known for. But one of the things that stood out to me were some of the quotes that he said in his way of thinking. And I'm trying to find this one quote quickly because this quote was pretty awesome. So the quote that he said had to do with brick walls. And he said, when we come to a brick wall, he says, many people look at that as a dead end, right? And he said that for him, he never looked as a dead end. And I want to give you the exact quote. Here's the exact quote. He said, brick walls are here for a reason. He says, they're not intended to keep us out. The brick walls are there to give us a chance to show how badly we really want something.
Mhm.
And I know that as a woman in IT, you've overcome some challenges, and I'm going to call you my authority on women in IT for this segment. So I want to know more about, tell me about women in IT in general. Tell me about your passion and how you got started and what drove you to get to the place you are today. I want to hear your story. Tell me more.
So, women in IT, I mean, it just didn't happen like that, to be honestly. It happened from going through a lot of obstacles, facing a lot of challenges, realizing that I'm the only woman in a workplace. It started off from a whole different aspect of my life. So let's go back a little bit. So I'm an
Mhm.
engineer. I did a double major in engineering, graduated, and I was like, what now? Where can I work? I don't know what to do, where to start. So first thing I thought, you know what, let me go into the software world, go into that, the tech hub, and figure out my passion from there. So I started off as a support engineer, and then I got more into IT from there, and then somehow I got more involved into IT, and I figured out, oh my God, I really do enjoy IT more than actually what I did in undergrad. So from there, working in that workplace, it's just made me realize, you know what, I'm the only woman in my team. Sometimes the only one of the very few women in the whole department, and it's pretty upset. It's pretty upsetting, and it's sad because how come how come we don't see that much diversity in the workplace? I mean,
Mhm.
we always talk about diversity and whatnot, but we don't see it as much. So I didn't know what would be the first step. So I started contacting other women who are in tech, who are in engineering, who are in IT, who do a lot of talks about this. And I started to figure out, how can I start my own initiative from there? How can I
Mhm.
do something to make that change and make that difference? So from there, I started to look into ways I can form a network that, that helps women evolve the work life, that helps evolve the work life balance of women, helps create a collaborative environment that promotes learning, that allows women to inspires women to speak up and actually support each other. I started working on initiatives that build awareness in order to change the behavior, and most importantly, which I always highlight, I always create initiatives that focus on how we can have men be our allies. So I always
Ooh.
encourage men to be our allies, and I always work on ways we can encourage accomplishment of women that have the interest in the field of IT, Agile, or STEM overall. So it all started off with that, and it kept going. The ball kept rolling, and somehow I made it into started my own initiative almost in every kind of not company, but more every in the federal government right now. I started my own women in IT initiative, and from there just kept going, doing talks, talking about leadership, talking about women in STEM and IT, talking about confidence, failure, and so many other great topics that we kind of lack in some of our societies because we don't put the light on as much.
No, that's so true. And one of the things that people might think it's kind of ironic, or people might look at me kind of strange. The name of my company is AgileDad, but yet, a lot about we talk a lot about diversity and inclusiveness. In fact, what most people don't realize is our core group of 20 people, 18 are female, 2 are not. So it's just really interesting to see, because we certainly we practice what we preach. We love to talk about how we can benefit and how we can help. And part of our new, so we just put together a whole new mantra, if you will, and it focuses a lot on an approach that's pragmatic, psychology driven, humanized, but it also focuses a lot on inclusiveness and diversity and how important that is to help get not just diversity, I don't want to limit diversity, let's put it that way. So when I say diversity, it could be diversity ethnically, diversity culturally, diversity by, male or female, however you want to include diversity, who you love, who you worship, where you're from, all those different things. We try to get a
Yeah.
great melting pot. Because what I found it to be true is that the more diverse the group is, typically the better the concepts, the better the ideas, the better the things that come out of that group. But
Definitely.
I know for certain that there are a lot of people who have a lot of questions. So one of the things that I want to kick off in our Q&A section here is, if I asked you, now this is a challenging question, if I asked you to give 3 words of advice, 3 words only of advice to a young woman or to someone who feels like they've hit a dead end or a brick wall, if you had to limit it to 3 words, what would you tell them? What advice would you give them?
I love that question, Lee. I mean, every time I never get that right straight question like that, I always emphasize on three main things for all women that are starting in their careers, who graduated recently, and even women who are, way further in their careers at this point, which is don't be afraid of failure at
Okay.
all. You,
So
you
don't
know,
feel failure.
don't be afraid of failure. Don't
Okay.
feel afraid. Don't be afraid. Don't
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 fear.
even don't fear, absolutely. Don't fear failure. Thanks for that. But it's important because we're so, and in the society we're looking at all those people who are so successful in their careers, so up there, and you just, they never talk about their failures, which I really don't like. Because we're all human. End of the day, we all had so many obstacles we have overcome. We've all failed numerous times. I personally failed numerous times, and you know what? That's why I'm part of all these initiatives now. So at the beginning, you were talking about how inspiring it is to see a woman such as myself be involved in so many, but I didn't get there because I'm just lucky. I got there because I went through so much obstacles, so many obstacles, so much was struggles and challenges that really allowed me to get to that point. It could be things that I've faced. It could be things that I've felt, I need to make a change in. So a lot of things have, including passion, of course, that's driven me there. But it's failure that really got me there, in full honesty. And nobody talks about that usually. And this is very important. So never fear failure, for sure. Second point, be super confident.
Mhm.
This is what I always talk about, and talks that sometimes I do talks in different companies, and so, and the main thing I say is that confidence is key. Women, unfortunately, a lot of us lack confidence. We're working on that. But if you believe something is wrong, then speak up and say it. It's not that men are smarter. A lot of people come up to me and they're like, why are you so about women in IT and women in Agile and women in STEM initiatives? Like, why aren't you not supporting men? We do support men. It's not about the idea of not supporting men.
Right.
It's about how we can be equal and how can we, increase that diversity. Why are there so many, what's the right word? Why are there a lot less women in
Hmm.
comparison to other fields? So that's what we're really kind of talking about. So have the confidence for sure. And third of all is follow your passion. And the way that if you don't know your passion, I didn't know my passion at the start. And the way I found out my passion is by not really focusing on my undergrad degree and working in that. I did biomedical and electrical engineering. And I said, you know what? Let me try software. Let me try IT. I tried, and I actually worked as a biomedical engineer. And guess what? I'm in IT. I'm obsessed with Agile. I'm I'm something completely different from my undergrad, but it's still technical, right? I still use my engineering degree to get the jobs that I want, of course. But the only way I knew what I like and what my passion is by stepping outside my comfort zone, by trying out different things, different fields, different streams, and figuring out what I want from there and focusing on that and like following my passion for sure. So those are probably three and a half
No, no,
things.
my hair on my arms just standing up. I got chills just hearing you
Why?
say that. It's so awesome because I feel like I'm getting my very own keynote speech here, which is just super cool. So you
Yeah, that
mentioned
helped.
no, you mentioned your passion for Agile, and I sensed that when you came through. So for those of you who don't know, or maybe you missed this, Sana did come through as a student in both my regular class and advanced training. So she's been through two workshops with me. So tell me, what is it that ignited this passion for Agile? How specifically did you discover the Agile community? What, tell us that story. What happened? I mean, here you are, you're in these different engineering fields, you're searching for something more. What made Agile the answer? Why Agile, I guess is the question.
So being a project managerly and working on several different projects, not just in my current department, in other workplaces in the private,
Mhm.
because keep in mind, I haven't mentioned this in the beginning, but I come from the private sector and I joined the public sector. Two different worlds, absolutely two different worlds, but two different worlds that kind of have the same concepts and run things the same way. We're in a point, we're now in 2021. It's time to, figure out ways how we can be more efficient in our projects. How can we, accomplish things a lot faster, more efficiently, save money, and all that sort of things. And you know what? When I've come across Agile, when I read about it, I'm like, this is definitely something that I see can make a difference in our workplace. Yes, I am all about making a difference in, diversity and whatnot, but I also want to make a difference in my own workplace. And
Right. No.
did it cut off on my end or your end? It just cut
Oh
off
no,
for
it
a
cut off
second.
on my
The
side.
glitch.
No, you're good. You're good. You're totally good.
Not everybody's. Back to what I was saying. Um, so figuring out how can we make things be more efficient, save money, kind of accomplish tasks a lot faster, have the right resources and whatnot really got me really to read more about Agile. So I've come across your course, Lee, and I thought, this is definitely something I'm interested to take and see where it goes. So I started off with that big, the very first Scrum Master course with you. And because I was so obsessed in how you deliver those, messages across and how you get stick in the students' heads. It's like, what, I'm going for the advanced. There's no way if he's teaching that, I'm definitely going for the advanced. And I took the advanced course with you. And honestly, I'm so grateful. The things that I apply today in my workplace have made a difference. And I have heard that not just from myself, but from others that I work with. And honestly, it's something I do highly recommend, and I look forward to finishing off my certification for sure.
Oh, that's awesome. So, I mean, this is a good question because you brought up the topic, not me, which makes it even more interesting. So I'm not fishing for compliments here. There are probably so there are just over 200 certified Scrum trainers in the world, and currently listed on Scrum Alliance website. I just took a peek. That may have been where you saw the little blip. Is that there are probably, oh my gosh, there are close to 1,000 courses listed. So I mean, you had a lot of options, I guess is what I'm trying to say. What is it, in your opinion, that made this course or my course, or what is it that made it stand out? If you had to identify one thing that you could say, This is the reason why I would take an AgileDad course from the Scrum Alliance versus another company's course. What would you say is one of those key differentiators? And if you need to do more than one, you can, but I'm trying to keep it pretty short, quick. So, what would you say is a key differentiator? What was something that helped you choose?
You want one word or you want a sentence?
Oh,
Or
no,
I
no,
can
no.
say
You can
all.
do it. No, it's not one word. No, no, no. Just one topic, one idea.
One word?
What's one thing that made you choose?
One word, I'll say reputation. Reputation with you, not only yours. I've done my research, Lee. So not only yours, but overall Scrum Alliance. Um, the reputation of the training and the way that they deliver the training. The spread of word, the word have asked, and a lot of people have
Mhm.
recommended it. So really, hearing people's opinions, the reputation, and doing my research, it's always appeared to me that this is what I where I should take, where I should be more, where I should take my agile training, and definitely no one was wrong about it, and I'm definitely grateful for that. So just give you a short answer in like one word, definitely reputation is what really got me to go for it
Yeah.
for sure.
And that's so important. And I think part of some people don't realize that there's so many different competing companies out there that aren't Scrum Alliance related that offer similar certifications, but they're just not the same. And the way that you put that with reputation, whether it's reputation of the Scrum Alliance or reputation of the trainer, it's important for you to do some research. And this is a topic I often talk about where I say, if you're ever going to receive any kind of training, whether it's how to cook or whether it's going to a class of any kind, you should always research the instructor and look for feedback, comments from other people who've taken the class, so that you can get a better feel for who they are and for what they do. So I have one more personal question that I know is going to pop up because people always ask this question. You know,
Okay.
what do you think? It's okay, Sana. It's a good one. So when you wake up in the morning, what's the one thing that drives you or motivates you the most? What's the one thing that energizes you? What's the one thing that really makes you who you are? I mean, you seem like you've got a lot of energy, a lot of passion. What moves you? What motivates you?
Another day to make a difference. Really,
I
another day to
love
follow
that.
my passion, another day to make a difference. I wake up and I'm like, you know what? I'm so lucky to be in a job which helps me make a difference every day
Mhm.
for the public servants, makes me make a difference to my, to Canada overall. And on top of that, it's all the other extracurriculars that I'm involved with do make a difference. We're seeing now we're recruiting a lot more women in the workplace. We're opening a lot more positions to kind of include more diversity. This stuff hasn't really happened without really pushing for that difference and creating those initiatives. On top of all of that, being involved with the other engineering initiatives, where I'm not just, I do a lot of women in engineering. I was like helping out with that and stuff, but really working on how we can, increase the learning experience, increase how we can add more events and activities to show, there's a lot of women or other people who are successful in engineering and in IT and tech. Every day is a new day to make a difference and to follow your passion. Obviously, not every day is perfect for me. Like any other human, it's an up and down. But every time I get down, you got to get back up. And that's the difference. When you fail, you got to get back up. And that's what drives me every day. It's just being grateful for being in the position I am today to make a difference in my work and after work hours for sure.
And that is just so cool to hear you say, because one of the things that we always pride ourselves on in Agile Dad, and I tell people this all the time, is my mission in life. If it were all driven financially or by something else, it would be a completely different model. But for me, it's driven by helping people look and feel and behave in the best way that they can, so that they feel good every day, so they have proper work-life balance. So
Absolutely.
this is a funny question that I just saw pop up. So I want to ask you this question. So, does this name ring a bell? Do you know who Jacinda Ardern is?
It rings a bell, but I can't remember.
She's the Prime Minister of New Zealand. She's been the Prime Minister of New Zealand since 2017. She's 40 years old. She was born on July 26, 1980. I've done my homework on her.
That's it,
She's
rings a bell. Yeah.
okay. So
Yeah,
she's fantastic.
yeah, yeah,
Now,
yeah.
what I can tell you, she's part of the New Zealand Labour Party, and she is the most beloved figure out of anyone who's ever served in New Zealand. She's
Mm-hmm.
just one of those people that the way she handled COVID. Do you know right now nobody in New Zealand is wearing a mask and they're all just behaving like normal and everything is absolutely fine there and there's absolutely zero cases.
Yep.
It's just and when they asked her how she did this, she said, she says, part of it, she says, I can attribute to all those great minds around me. I surround myself with brilliant people. She said, but part of it had to do with the fact that she was a woman leader and that she just knew what to do, that it was part of her maternal instinct to make things right. And I thought that was very interesting. So the question I'm going to ask you is, when are you going to push Justin aside, Mr. Trudeau, and say, hey, get out of here. It's Santa time. Is that something that you ever dream of happening? Could you ever take that step into, I mean, you're already working within the government. Is that something that could happen? I mean, because if I were in Canada, I know I'd vote for you. I mean,
Thank you
what
so
would it
much.
take?
I am so honored. Thank you so much. So definitely, it's about having the right support for sure. As she's mentioned, having the right positive mind people around, and having the right support and the men alliance. Right, we need a lot of men allies around that idea. But obviously, would I think consider something like this? I mean, it's more about, do I consider being part of the being part of a political party and go from there? Yes, I do. I would love that, but really, I gotta look more into it. I've yet to, before going to that, I'd like to make sure that I have made a positive difference in a place, which I'm slowly working towards. And once I feel, more content with everything that I've been doing in the society, then maybe I'll take that step and go, change that path of my career and discover what's out there.
Mhm.
But definitely something I would consider, but not probably prime minister level. That's too much for me to handle. Probably a little less a little less than that, but definitely something I would love for sure.
You got to start somewhere, right? So,
Yeah.
no, but for me, I love this quote. So I'm going to give you one more Randy Pausch quote because I love this guy. He was an Imagineer and he had some fantastic quotes. And he gave a talk. So just to give you an idea, somebody compared me to this gentleman in one of my training classes, and I didn't look him up and see who he was until after class. And the truth is, when he gave a talk, it was called The Last Speech or The Last Presentation. And it was all about, if you knew you were going to die and you only had one more chance to speak to your students, he was a professor, what would you tell your students? What would you say? And it wasn't until he found out that he had stage 4 pancreatic cancer
Oh wow.
that he gave this talk, which was amazing because when he gave the talk titled, your last talk, it was his last talk. And what was so cool about it was the way that he approached it. So he started off, and I'm just going to read you a couple of these quotes because I thought they were super cool. The first quote he said is, "We can't change the cards we're dealt. We can just change how we play the hand." And I love the way that you took that question that I just now asked about Justin and changed the hand, right? You said, "I don't know that I'm aspiring to be there, but there's something that I can do with it." And that's awesome. But this is the one that I was looking for. Here it is. It says, "Experience is what you get when you didn't get what you wanted. Experience is often the most valuable thing that you have to offer." And I think that sometimes when we're in a search for, where we're trying to go or who we want to be or what we're trying to do, sometimes it requires us to dig a little deeper, but it requires us having experiences. And some of those experiences are going to be amazing experiences. Some of those experiences are going to be less comfortable experiences. But either way, they're going to drive us to be who we're trying to be. So I
Absolutely.
guess that, and I know for certain that there are at least 10 people who email me regularly who have their children listen to this. So we're talking about young girls, young women, young ladies, right? Who are listening. And I guess what I want to ask you, Santa, is for you, right? Having come up, you know, obviously you have the diversity in culture, you're female, you were the underdog, you had all these things coming against you, but yet you still, every single time something's thrown in front of you, you find a way to climb over that wall, you find a way to break the glass ceiling, you find a way to make things successful. I guess I have two-part questions. So part one is, you know, you gave some advice, but if it was something more designed for someone who's young, because I know we have some young listeners, what would you tell someone very young? What would you tell someone who's a youth that says, I dream one day maybe to replace Justin, right? Somebody who wants to strive for that very highest position, or someone who says, in America, I want to be the president of the United States, or I want to be the first woman to walk on Mars, something along those lines. What would you tell that girl whose dream, many girls dream about, living in a castle and being a princess and getting married, but there's some dreams that are definitely STEM related, right? So I guess what I'm asking you is, what would you tell this young, malleable person, who sees you and says, Santa, one day I just want to be like you. What would you do to inspire them so that they can, go on the right path and so that they could stay on the right path? What do you feel are some of the things that you did maybe in your formative years that helped you get there?
It's honestly, I give a big thank you to my mentors, a huge thank you. And the thing that really pushed me were mentors, were having the right support, whether it's family, family was big, friends, of
Mhm.
course, but mentors. Follow or reach out to those who you see, who you inspire to be like one day. Reach out to them in any way you can. Have your parents reach out to them and be like, you know what, my daughter or I am very inspired to be like you. What can I do? Maybe, schedule a call with them, figure out, the path moving forward. That's what I did. That's how I started. I started
Mhm.
reaching out to those who made it far and as well as I started to follow my passion. But it's about being surrounded by the right positive environment, being surrounded by people who push you forward definitely gets you far. But also, reach out to those who you inspire to be like one day. Listen to them and follow. If you don't have to follow the same steps, everyone has a different life path and
Yeah,
whatnot. But
different
like,
paths, sure.
yeah, but like it's you gotta let's keep your ears open, hear different people's experience, and take the best out of it and see how it can fit you and be yourself. I
Yeah.
cannot emphasize this enough. I am not trying to be like someone else, neither should you. I am myself. Everyone who kind of not just, I'm not saying I made it, I'm saying others who have made it way up there in their careers, they
Mhm.
were there because they were themselves. They were not trying to act like somebody else. They were being very authentic. They were following their passion and they have had the right support and mentorship. That's really what I would really emphasize and tell all those the younger generation is, of course, I would say do your research, do all that, know what you want, but that's not
Right.
really what matters. End of the day, it's about having being yourself, having the right soft skills and kind of following your passion and going from there. So a lot of people don't really talk about being yourself, and I think a lot of people kind of try to aspire to be like others and they start acting that way, but that's not how it should be at all whatsoever.
Right. Richard Branson, when I gave him the same question, he had an interesting take on it. And he said, you shouldn't ever want to impersonate someone else, which I thought was really
Same
cool.
thing.
He said,
Yeah.
but so it's kind of funny that you said the same thing. But
Yeah.
here's the piece that he tacked on, which I thought was really cool. He said, it's okay to meet new people and to try to identify or discover the one thing that you admire about them, the one thing that you feel they're doing very well. And then he says, if you make it part of your practice to emulate that activity. So if you admire someone because, oh, wow, she's brave, she's really brave. So I'm going to go throughout today and try to be more brave about my decisions. Or, oh, she's creative. So I'm going to try to be more creative today, or whatever that might be. Even if you just do it until you meet the next person, it's going to make you a more well-rounded person and
Mhm.
someone who's less afraid to fail. And someone who you can relate to, someone relatable.
Mhm.
And I thought that that was a pretty cool piece to kind of round it off, right? Because I definitely feel like if you're giving the same advice as Sir Richard Branson, you're doing pretty good. Uh, so,
Well, thanks
but
so
but
much, Lee. But really, end of the day, about being so. I had to step. I was such a shy kid. I don't think anyone.
Mhm.
I don't know. It's hard probably to believe now, but I was such a shy kid. I hated public speaking. I'd rather sit in a corner and read a book than do public speaking and be out there. But yet, when I was really looking at other women who I inspire to be like one day, or men, not just women, I aspire to be like men too
Mhm.
sometimes, and
Yeah, sure.
so what I did, I started reaching out, I started emailing, I started contacting. I use LinkedIn now to reach out to other professionals. I do it all the time this is called stepping outside of my comfort zone, but it got me to where I am today. And I'm so grateful for that. But because I was myself, who I want to get advice from these amazing professionals, and I got the right advice that I used specific amount of advice that can apply on me and on my own personality, and I used it from there to become the person I am. So really, like roughly the same thing as what he said. So I'm quite honored. Thank you.
There you go. No, that's super cool. So, I don't want to keep you much longer because I know you got a busy schedule. So I just want to close with the three questions. So these are three questions that people always ask. And they're three just, and they're not specific questions. They're three random questions, but they're three things that are going to help people just learn a little more about you and learn a little more about what you do. So the first question is, if you could recommend one book for someone to read, what is the one book that you would recommend that someone has to read? It has to go on a must-read list. What is it?
Oh my, one book. That's a
And it
tough
could be
question.
any book. It could be a spiritual book. It could be a motivational book. It could be a business book. I'm not fishing for any specific book.
Do
Just
you want a specific
one book.
title or do you want something in general? But I would kind of specify because I
Either
can't.
one's fine. Either one's fine.
So for me, in terms of, I was never a science fiction person. Unfortunately, I mean, nothing else. I love science fiction, but not my thing. But it's more. I always read about books about how to focus on your own. Um, I've always looked at here's what it is. I always looked at books that everyone has goods and bads. I
Hmm.
focused on how to bring more of the goods in you, how to bring kind of amplify it, if that's the right word. For instance, I have a lot of one of my great characteristics is, well, first thing is know what they are. So one of my great characteristics is, making a difference, being out there. It's about how to increase, how to better your communication. How can you talk? How can you do public speaking a lot better? It's really focusing on your soft skills and how can you increase them. That's not only one thing.
Hmm.
And also, I read a lot of books about how to kind of be content and happy. It all comes from inner peace, and once you get into that, oh my god, I've read so many books about these, but like once you get into that and have that inner peace within you, you can kind of go, in my opinion, you can go make it far in terms of being satisfied with what you do. Focus on happiness, focus on your good health, focus on your career. So definitely this is the genre that I would pick, not a specific book I
Hmm.
can think off the top of my head, but these books that I kind of went through and I read really helped in my career today. So I mean, I can't, unfortunately, I can't pick out a single title for you,
That's
but
okay.
focusing on your soft skills and your own inner peace and happiness is definitely one of the main books I would recommend.
If I handed you a microphone and allowed you and challenged you to say, what is the one challenge that you would issue? So if I gave you the microphone and you could talk to everyone out there and you could issue them a challenge to help make the world a better place or to help them improve themselves or whatever you want to do, if you could issue one challenge to everybody out there, kind of a closing challenge, what would your challenge be? What would you challenge everyone to do?
What would I challenge everyone to do for one day?
Hmm. Yeah, well, for one day or for good. I mean, if you just had the microphone and you could tell the world, there's something you could do to make a difference. This is what it is. I challenge you to do X. What would you challenge people to do? What would you challenge them to do better?
I challenge everyone to do one act of kindness in a
And
day,
I love
because
that.
when you make a difference in you feel good when you do one good thing. I mean, that's what really pushes me every day, I'll be honest. It's that I'm getting this adrenaline rush every time I do something good. And when you do an act of kindness, not only you feel good, but you make those around you feel good. You make the person you're doing it to feel so good. You make them feel though the world is a better place, especially now we're living in such a rough time in this pandemic. We all need, I mean, now there's lack of communication. We're not seeing people face to face as much, but we need to kind of do, when we do these kind of act of kindness, maybe it's checking up on our neighbors, seeing what they need, see if we can help out in any way, not just our neighbors, our friends, anybody. Doing one act of kindness can make a world of a difference to someone and their lives and to your life. So that is something I would definitely, I would hope to see if I can just if I can have that microphone.
Okay, and if you so last question, and that was brilliant, by the way. So
Thank you.
if you, or not if you, if anyone else wants to contact you, if they want to say, hey, she's amazing, I want Santa to speak at our company. I know you can't, you're trapped and locked down in Canada, but if somebody said, hey, I want to get Santa to speak at my company, or I want her to help with a keynote presentation or talk at one of our conferences or help uplift women in STEM, what might be a good way for someone to contact you if they're interested in doing something like that? Do you have a preferred way for people to contact you or reach out to you?
I'm always open for emails. I'm always open on LinkedIn. I'm not active as in posting actively on LinkedIn, but I'm very active because I communicate a lot with other professionals on LinkedIn. So I'm on LinkedIn. Definitely follow me, reach out to me, message me, as well as my email address. And I would love to get my phone number, but I'm not sure how many calls I'll get a
No,
day. So,
yeah, let's not do that. No, but
but
I love how enthusiastic and passionate you are. You just want to make sure everybody can get in touch with you, and that's awesome. And I'm just going to throw out there, if you do have trouble reaching out to Santa, reach out to me, and I can get in touch with her. That's another way you can do it. So there's lots
absolutely.
of different ways that you can reach out. Santa, I know time is the most precious thing that we have, and you've given me so much of yours. I can't thank you enough. You've been amazing, way better than I expected. I can tell you that right now. This has just gone absolutely fluid. I just want to thank everybody who's watching out there today and encourage you to do something to make a difference in the world today. Take that challenge. Santa's challenge was a great challenge. Find a way to instill happiness or bring happiness to someone, because when you do, it's not only going to make the world a better place, but it's going to make you a better person. So thanks again, Santa. Thanks for being amazing. It was a pleasure to have you. Until next time, I
Pleasure
hope
was
that
all.
you live your best life,
Thank
and
you so
do
much.
take care. We'll see
Thank
you
you.
next time. Bye now.